Hi, I'm Mark, and this is The Emotional Alchemist. And today I'm here with Bridget Nielsen, who has the YouTube channel Bridget Nielsen, which is, I love her channel and I love her energy. And today we're going to talk about balancing of divine masculine and divine feminine within ourselves, the balancing of anima and animus. And I know
Beautiful.
you know a lot about that.
I do. I mean, it's been a big exploration for me, and as we were talking a little bit, it's been an exploration for you. I think it's an exploration that we're having collectively on our planet. Obviously, because we're figuring out like what works, how to come back into balance, and that might swing us out of balance. So, I think it's a really good topic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My experience has been growing up. I felt very much more of a softer energy or a more feminine energy, not being assertive in how I show up in the world.
Yeah.
And my channel has been very much in literally a journey of how I've been transmuting that fear that comes up about stepping into the masculine energy, the more stronger in how I turn up in the world.
Yeah.
And what's your experience of that from both the feminine side, seeing other guys, seeing men doing the
Yeah.
same thing, and also seeing the shadow side?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a big thing right now with with men in the world is there's this realization for the past, couple millennia that women have been completely, suppressed and bashed out and raped and pillaged and all of that. And I think that there's an extra sensitivity now to that, a consciousness that's now available to see that. And within that, then that begs, well, then should I feel bad? And then how do I be masculine but not suppress the feminine again outside of myself within like the feminine expression in like women, but also like with the feminine within ourselves. And so I think it's that internal quarrel that's going on right now within our collective culture, and it's a tricky place to be. Like I think, to be honest, in my opinion, I think it's harder for men right now because the women are on this pendulum swing to um, we're gaining momentum of being heard, of being seen, of kind of like the apologies and forgiveness of what's happened, like to us, that we're really receiving that. But now it's like, okay, well then how do the men still be masculine? And then also within the feminine, if we take the masculine from the men because it doesn't feel safe, then it's really scary because then the women have to become masculine and men themselves, which is not, I don't think, the thing that women truly want. I don't think out of this kind of like feminism or out of the empowerment of the feminine, I don't think what we're ultimately wanting, or at least I'll speak for myself, is I'm not actually wanting to be masculine myself. I'm wanting the availability to be received as the feminine, and then for the men to be empowered and healthy in relationship to the feminine and in relationship to the rest of the world. Yeah.
And I think the same with me. When I'm not in a relationship, but when I am in a relationship, I do very much want a partnership that is both that is balanced for both of us.
Yeah.
And it's and for me, a lot of the work I've done is in understanding that shadow, how when something happens, there is this want to, or this kind of instinct to react, and that is how I think that the shadow masculine, the aggression, the turns up in the world, and I think it's finding that balance. But also for me, a lot of it has been shadow work.
Yeah. I mean,
You strike me as someone who's done a lot of shadow work.
I do.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have. I love going into the underworld and retrieving my light and transmuting it and bringing it back to wholeness. But yeah, I feel like there is a ton of shadow work in it. And around that, is it kind of like the fear that then that aggression or that negative expression of the masculine is going to come up? Is that kind of what?
Yeah,
how
absolutely. And that is in both men and women.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the thing that's kind of funny in this situation, right? Is like there's a permission in women to become aggressive and like masculine towards other women or towards men. But really what we're needing to like address then is that anger, aggression, doesn't matter what sex it's in, what body it's in. just that there is a rage within us.
Absolutely.
And like, where is that coming from? And like, and it might be actually like a physiological thing, like our livers, you know? And it also might be that there's deep aspects of us that have not been able to be expressed in a healthy way. And that suppression over time just like has to break out and manifest in a negative way. So doing that shadow work is critical to get to the bottom of it so that we don't have to, be triggered and like kind of throw up in this negative way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's so many of us I experienced trauma, and the stuff, and it's going back and uncovering that to understand how that affects me in the present.
Yeah.
The more of that I do, I get like this microsecond before when the emotion comes up, and it's like, this isn't fair.
Yeah.
And it's it's that insight, and it's just a fraction of a second. It's like, what do I need to do in this time to nurture myself, which I think is more of the divine feminine.
Right.
It's understanding that the wounded child in me needs nurturing, and I say that the Trinity is the divine masculine holding space, while my divine feminine, animus, nurtures that part of me that was originally wounded.
Right.
So there isn't the explosion of a 2-year-old.
Yeah, see, that's where it gets highly complicated, right? Because we started out with like the masculine and the feminine. It's like, okay, we can play with 2, you know, but then you're like, okay, let's add the third component of the traumatized child at age 2 or 3, right? And then let's do the adolescent, you know, this, and all of a sudden you have so many different sub-personalities kind of shooting out at the same time that I think it gets quite complicated. And for me, it's really one by one taking those pieces. And I was just doing this yesterday on our membership call, like that soul retrieval, especially the inner child work, is like first. Like if we're not sourced in that inner child, then like if we're in a relationship wanting to like move into the feminine and the masculine and relate to each other in this really conscious way, but the 2 or 3-year-old is like driving the car.
Absolutely.
We're just screwed. We can't do anything.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I think intimate relationships bring that out a lot. Would you say?
It's what I remember in recovery. They say once you think you've done enough work on yourself, get into a relationship and see where those areas where you need to work on yourself.
Absolutely.
It's perfect. And I think that is what a real divine partnership is. It's that I always remember Joseph Campbell saying it's the dance when you first start off, but it's allowing each other to have that space to work on those things that are still unresolved.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
it's in having empathy and compassion and a real partnership.
Yeah, and that's like what I've been working on a lot with Patrick for like 5 years. We've been in this dance exploration, and we truly are getting to a place where we're getting really good at it. I'm so happy to know that.
That is beautiful.
I know, right? That it like exists, that triggerless space of like true compassion, and I think that not seeing each other as adversaries and also dealing with these wounded parts, but like being like truly a team, like you're a team coming together. And so then how can we resolve this? And for us and for me, it's always been like if I'm doing my work or if he's doing his work, that's all that's required. Like if there is truly a desire for resolution, not 10 years in the future, but like as soon as we can, you know, as much as we can do to come back to wholeness as quickly as possible, then it's fine. Like we can hold each other in that compassion.
Absolutely. And hold space while the other person does their work.
Totally.
Yeah. It's I got to travel a lot, and I just, you know what I love more than anything else? It's like 70-year-old or 80-year-old taxi drivers who tell me they've been married for 45 years or 50 years, and I say, wow, and they say, yeah, it's all about just give and take. And I'm just like, I find that beautiful. It always puts a smile on my face.
Yeah, it's so great. And I think it's doing, I mean, like you're doing right now, like your personal work. And it's one thing, it gets even harder when you're doing a lot of your personal work in the relationship. But as much as you can do it beforehand, so that you move into it and then
absolutely
you're prepared.
Yeah. It's not quite as painful that way.
Yeah. But it works the other way too, which
absolutely.
is wonderful.
Massive growth.
Yeah. I mean, either way definitely works. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. Thank you. If you want to see Bridget's channel, I think it's going to be here. There's a link to hit here. And thank you, Bridget.
Thanks so much for having me.